Perfect.
And that way we get your views. And if you share anything, you should have rights to share as well. Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
Record to the cloud. And we're going to start the summary as well. Excellent. Let's let everyone in.
Perfect.
And admit all. Yep. Gosh, it's getting dark here already.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And it's only 2 o'clock. This is Scotland for you in winter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody.
Yeah, maybe we can just we've got a good group, a tight group here, so maybe we can learn a little bit about everybody. That'd be great.
Yeah.
If that's possible.
And if you want to put in the chat where you are, and if you want to feel comfortable with your camera on or you're comfortable with your camera off, that's okay. And we'll just have a little bit of a fireside chat. These sessions are meant to be quite relaxed and explorative, and they really work well when those listening can ask questions as well. And yeah, I'm going to go put this onto the speaker view. So there we go. We can see the lovely Ed there. So okay, so welcome to the Good Company Way. Okay, the Good Company Way is really set up to look at a cross boundary of things that good companies should be looking at. And part of that is that a lot of us came out of the agile movement, and agility is quite specific. It's not really a boardroom level topic. When we started looking at sustainability and things like ESG as well, there's broader considerations. And we also started looking at B Corps and the transition away from just profit as a motive for company, and what and really focusing us in the lens of the planet. Obviously, with the hottest year ever, it's an important thing to think about. Also, people, and as we hit AI and other technology changes and things with the big tech layoffs, people's another interesting topic to look at. And the final one is prosperity, and the reason I like prosperity. It's getting a sense that we need to get to a thriving position as well. So I'm Scott. I love hosting these things. I love community work, and I look around my LinkedIn feeds to people that are doing anything interesting. And at some point, Ed and I must have linked up because I saw Ed's material, and I thought I'd love to have Ed come here and explain a little bit about himself and a little bit about his work, and then we can put the video up and other people can get access to it. So Ed, welcome. And do you want to tell a little bit about you and your background and your history?
Well, my background, I'm old enough so that I can do this in decades. So I'll do it in decades. My first decade after college, I was on Capitol Hill, and I worked my way up to become the Senate Democrat Policy Committee staff counsel, where I worked on competitiveness and globalization. And of course, this was happening in the late 70s. I moved from there to a corporate strategy consulting firm to understand really how corporations were making these decisions to globalize, what was really happening here. And I helped a number of companies, primarily General Electric, Volvo, and Ford, start thinking about their global footprint.
Excellent. Very big companies there as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And what they were doing was really, from the US standpoint, they were pulling manufacturing out of the US. And so they were leaving behind a lot of damage. So I decided to leave that work and I spent about the next decade seeing if I could apply the strategic planning models that I had learned to the problems of communities and regions that had to face these pressures. And of course, they're a kind of a portfolio business, so you can start to think about them as a portfolio. But turns out that the strategic planning models are very difficult to apply in open environments or community and regional environments. So the question was, how do we do strategy in open networks when nobody can tell anybody what to do? How does that happen? And so in the beginning of the 90s, I started working on that problem. And I used open source software development as a model to understand how to do this. And the basic idea was, okay, can we develop some simple rules to follow to manage this complexity? By 2005, I had a model in my head that was working, that I had built my consulting practice around, but I didn't know how to teach it or validate it really. So I spent the next 15 years, 2005 to about 2019, at Purdue University, where I was invited to come to validate this model and learn how to teach it. And it turns out that's actually pretty hard to do. I thought I'd be there for 3 years, but I was there for 15. And the reason it's hard to do is, one, collaboration is a very slippery topic. So people really don't know how to collaborate, even though they say they do.
Especially in academia, because there's so much competition going on. Yeah,
that's right. That's
yeah.
right. And then the second problem, of course, is now you're in an academic setting, and academicians or scholars have a different model of what is valid knowledge, right? So they have a knowledge model in their head, or an epistemology in their head,
Yeah.
that's focused on positive science and really comes out of natural science, right? Well, social science is a lot different. It's much more complex in many ways.
I'm not even sure Sheldon would call it a science.
Maybe not. But different methodologies are important, action research and the like. And so we had to validate this in a whole lot of different settings, which we did everything from neighborhoods in Flint, Michigan, to NASA and Lockheed Martin. And so could you apply the same model, get good results, regardless of the setting? And so we were able to do that. And then I completed, after 2019, I completed the last step of the journey, which was to complete a dissertation in economics to explain why does this work, based on existing research. In other words, what are the existing research streams that support the 10 rules? And so the dissertation goes through the evolution of the discipline, goes through why it works, what are the multiple streams of research that support each one of these rules, and then starts to move us into scholarly research. Again, the whole idea of making sure that people don't dismiss this as, well, this is just another consulting model. And so that's been my journey. Now I spend time globally, because it's a discipline that has spread globally. We teach it in multiple languages. In the 1990s, in addition to doing work in the US, I was doing joint ventures in China. So I was validating in my own mind the model in these joint ventures. And it comes down to this. It comes down to productive collaborations let me define that term, are a process of recombinant innovation among equal partners to create shared value. In other words, you're creating solutions to complex problems that you don't really know what the solution is beforehand. So you're trying to figure out solutions that create shared value. And when I say value, I'm not just talking about financial value. I'm talking about some people are in this because of other values, your point. So you're creating shared value among equal partners. So positional authority, positional power within an organization is in a sense irrelevant to the process, because you're working with equal partners, and you're creating psychological safety and flattening this hierarchy.
Yeah.
And it's a discipline. And as I said, I learned a lot from studying open source software development, which gave rise to the Agile movement. It's a design-do discipline. Your design-do, and it's really one of the core disciplines now, I think, that is forming around a new field of management called adaptive management, in the sense that we have technical management. I mean, I went to business school. I knew technical management, all the tools of technical management, project, all of that kind of stuff, learning how to financially evaluate streams of cash. That's technical management. increasingly we have to develop adaptive management. So this involves design thinking, systems thinking, strategic doing. My colleague Doug Smith has developed a discipline which he calls performance-driven change, moving organizations, big organizations, to be more adaptive and to learn and experiment. These are all adaptive management disciplines. And so increasingly, we need to educate people and teach people about adaptive management. And strategic doing is probably the first discipline, it won't be the only one, that's traveled that journey. I hope by traveling that journey, I make it faster and easier for others to do it. But it comes out of reflective practice, practitioners trying to figure out what's working. And kind of the godfather of reflective practice is a guy named Donald Schoen who was at MIT. And what he made the point about was that when you're dealing with really complex systems that you can't see, these are complex, you can't see these systems, that the only way to generate applied knowledge is to engage the system, or as Donella Meadows would say, dance with the system. And so you can do this in a rigorous way, and you can do it in such a way that it creates a body of knowledge that is rigorously developed and rigorously applied, meets scholarly standards. And that's where I think we're heading. That's where I think we need to be going. We need to develop these new disciplines, not to the exclusion of the old ones. We're still going to run into technical problems. We're still going to have to figure out discounted cash flows and things like that. Got it. But the orbit of those technical is going to shrink, and the orbit of adaptive management is going to grow, because the complexity of the problems we have are coming at us faster and faster. So that's kind of my story. So thank you for.
It's honestly a very powerful story. A little bit about my background. So I started off my entire journey into this was through Deming at Ford. So Ford gave me some Deming training, and I went to statistical process control, and then I went to university, and then I got into soft systems analysis, systems thinking, and actually between a bit of Deming, and a bit of Checkland, I made quite a lot of impact in early projects while everyone else was just following a method, and also looking at the softer social issues. So completely get that. A lot of the people that we have in our community in Scotland are very much in that space as well, researching. So very excited. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a pause, and I'm going to ask the group we are here if anyone's got any questions. If you're shy, pop them in the chat. That's completely okay. And if you're not, just unmute and ask a question, and we'll just cover off. This is like the background history bit, and we'll and please ask Ed anything you want.
Hello, can I talk?
Of course you can, Sergio.
Hi, Scott. Hi, Ed. Hello, everyone. You notice my English is not perfect. It's okay. I start from scratch in England 8 years ago, and I have been involved in a, let's say, case study about my experience in a corporate, in a global business, and I say in the wrong job description, because the fact I didn't speak English, I have to start from scratch in England working as a laboratory technician. So I have all my background about engineer. I am not Superman. I started from scratch in a bad circumstance in my life, but it's okay. I keep going. So I resonate to me a lot the things that Ed mentioned about technical management and adapted management, because in my case, I am lucky or not lucky, I have my background, and I couldn't never to show, I insist I am not Superman at all, just I couldn't speak English 2-3 years ago, something like that. So it is curious how my journey has been like a disruption. I'm not sure if disruption, it's like, how can I say, a crossroad in between be aligned with the technical management I have to keep aligned with, of course, and at the same time being like a entrepreneur mindset, innovator, I don't know, because I don't have any solution for anything. So my journey in England is so tough. I am very happy, but at the same time, now starting as an entrepreneur, I don't know, I looking for get involved in a doesn't matter, in different environments in which we can nurture each other. And I don't know how. Yesterday, randomly, LinkedIn, I see the link of Scott. You are the hoster, isn't it?
One of them as a team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I see you on LinkedIn or something like that. I didn't agree you, nothing, and I am here. So I'm lucky because the comments of it are interesting to me. So thank you very much, and sorry if I talking too much. I just talk.
Not at all. Welcome. This is a great place for colliding ideas. I have this theory that the only way we'll get real innovation is by colliding people with different backgrounds. So the difference of your background adds to the value of the quality of the conversation. It doesn't take away from it. Yeah.
Well, it's such a wonderful story, Sergio, because part of what we're really talking about when we talk about adaptive management is collective learning, right? So it's the whole notion of committing ourselves to continuous learning. And so the fact that you didn't speak English just a few years ago just shows the commitment that you have. Language is so important because it organizes the way we think, right? So it's one of the exciting aspects of my work is that people in different languages can follow the same model. So that's exciting to me because I know I'm married to a woman from China. I know people who are grown up in different language traditions think about the world differently because they use different categories and all that. So, but I think
my Mexican wife just walked in. So
okay, there you go.
Sergio, I know what you feel like because when I go to Mexico City for Christmas, I just have to smile and say claro a lot.
How dare you? How dare you to say I seem Spanish speaker or something like that or not?
This is my wife,
I am.
Monica.
Hello, Monica. How are you?
I don't know you, and I don't know what you're talking about.
This is Ed. We're having a talk around about complexity and his strategic doing. Sergio's came to the first meetup, and he's just talking about he came to the UK and didn't speak any English 3 years ago, and he's a lab technician.
No.
So he works in a lab, entrepreneur. So
Exactly.
we're talking about language, and yes, I have the other problem when I go to Mexico City. I just
okay. So your mind is totally flexible. Whatever level of language is nice.
Yeah. And anyone else want to come in and great reflection, Ed? I love that reflection on what Sergio said. Anyone else like to add something on Ed's introduction?
Yeah, hi, I'm Audrey. And,
hi, Audrey.
Hello. And I saw we are connected on LinkedIn, and we had a speaker for our local organization development network, and it was Linwood, and I can't think of Linwood's last name because I found him on LinkedIn.
Linwood Ross.
Yes,
yeah.
Linwood Ross. And he introduced us to a little bit of your work and what he's doing with it as he had come through your program. So I've been thinking about it, but I was introduced to like complexity maybe a couple of years ago in the theory, and I just thought, oh my gosh, we do need a different type of leader. This adaptive leadership is intriguing to me because I train leaders. I'm a facilitator, and my granddaughter's leaving now, so she's leaving for school. But yeah, I train leaders, but the mindset of a leader has to change, as you talked about. The hierarchy needs to, all of that needs to go away. Working with a team now, and we have a mixture of wanting the new way of leading, but also the old mindset of leadership, the hierarchy and all of that. And there are also a lot of just issues, patterns that have been created in the culture that we're undoing now through the dialogue. So I'm just intrigued about what all this entails on the people side of things, and getting the mindset to shift to be more adaptive, and so that you can tackle and collaborate, truly collaborate together. So I'm just interested in the topic. And you I'm on a board of a Global Entrepreneurs Institute. And I had asked for your, I don't know if I tagged you because we were looking for topics for this year for our network. And anyway, you popped something in the chat, I think, and so you popped a link to this, and I thought, you know what, I'm coming. So anyway, that's why I'm here.
Great, Audrey.
Yes.
Well, one of the things that hierarchies are very efficient. We largely build a huge economy based on that model of organization, and it works well when you have a technical problem, or a complicated problem. Let me say that, a complicated problem that you can take apart. You can use root cause analysis to figure it out. It's all fits together like a puzzle. We're still going to run into problems like that. So, you do want to have, you're not moving exclusively away from hierarchy. In other words, in your organizations, you want your taxes filed on time. You want your accounting system to work. These are all things that we can organize hierarchically. But increasingly, we are encountering problems that we don't know the solutions to. We have no idea how to do this. And obviously climate change is one, responding to the pandemic is another one. But we have youth violence in Flint, Michigan. I mean, that's a complex problem. Nobody has a solution. We can't figure it out. We have to, and the good news about complex problems, though, is that there's multiple solutions. There's dozens of solutions. There's not just one solution. Technical problem usually has one optimal solution, that you're trying to find. With complex solutions, complex problems, we look for solutions that are good enough and that actually improve our situation. And they come out from collaborations, and collaborations is a discipline. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's not being nice. It's not, well, of course that helps, but it's actually a discipline that you learn. We identified 10 skills to the discipline, and what you're using is conversation. Conversation becomes your power tool. That's that. And how you design the conversation beforehand, how you think about it, how you design it, and then how you lead it with questions. That's the most intriguing aspect. How you lead it with questions is really important. So for me, it's a different set of leadership skills. You're talking about not the individual. In the hierarchy, we think about individuals, right? I mean, when Scott was working in his job, or Sergio was working in his job, and if you're thinking about hierarchy, you're thinking about the individual performance. Is this person doing their job? With complex challenges, wicked problems, you're thinking about teams. And it's not a single leader team. It's not a team that, again, if you have a technical problem and you have a single leader team, great, fantastic. When you're, in a surgical environment, you want a single leader team. You want somebody in charge. It's not a debate. It's let's get this done. But in a complex environment, leadership is distributed, and there are people who are what we call chief doing officers, who people make sure things get done. But you'll see that because the skills of the conversation are different at different stages, some people are really good at improvisation, at connecting, and hey, if we put this over here and do this. And some people are really good at saying, okay, well, we've got this routine down. How do we scale it across our enterprise? How do we, and then you also have to have someone in that team who's sitting there going, well, that's a great idea, but we don't have the money to do this. Or how are we going to make this sustainable? Because we have to have a business model here. So you have to have people thinking about these complex problems from all these different perspectives, all at once. It's not an assembly line. It's bringing people with different perspectives together in a team. And so that's a different model of management than at least I was taught, and most business schools teach now, is still that single leader discipline. And I think we have to move to a more productive model. Let me put it that way.
Let me throw you a ball. You can choose to play with it or not. I've always done corporate digital change in the agile space. And just before I move on from the agile space, apparently when the people got together to think about agile, they had two terms they wanted to use and they voted on it. And one was agile and one was adaptive. And the agilist narrowly won. So the whole of agility could have been called adaptability if the vote had gone a different way on that day. But stepping into, when we set this group up, and that when I set my business up, we went in with the hypothesis that businesses wanting to do things around about sustainability, would really value people with agile skills, who are good at delivery. So we went out and talked to a lot of organizations, and so usually the same organizations would knock on the door and say, "Do you need this tech delivered?" And they say yes. And we said, like, "Do you need the sustainability delivered?" They say yes. And one of the things that we started finding was the sustainability people and the people with the sustainability groups seem to be fragmented across an organization, working under a specific leader. So HR might be looking at some of the diversity things, finance might be looking at some of the governance things and the reporting angle, ops might be looking at some of the social things. Marketing might be doing some other things around about, our claims. You'll probably see the Apple advert, where Mother Nature comes in. And all these initiatives seem a little bit disconnected. And a little bit almost like not in the main, was it Ringland had a 3-ring circus. So not in the main circus ring, but off to the side. So one of the things that I found difficulty with, and I think it's an area that needs a little bit of improvement, is getting sustainability, getting the climate, getting those other issues to get into the main circle and to be treated as a communal problem by an organization, as opposed to breaking it into its little elements and letting each of the silos run with it. And then when they put it together, they're not actually making much difference. So I made that a long question to give you a bit of thinking time, and please feel free to have a bit more thinking time. But what would strategic doing help in that scenario, for instance? There we go. There's a big ball I've thrown at you for a good discussion.
Yeah, so you've touched on a really critical issue, which we've been working on for about a decade, but we've come up with some solutions that seem to make some sense. So part of it is that, all right, we're organized. Our starting point is organization. Hierarchical organization. And now we've got these challenges that cross silos. So we're going to come up with a matrix organization, which is a typical response to. But what I'm going to suggest to you is that there's some challenges that organizations face where neither the hierarchical and matrix organization really works. What really does work is a platform. And sliding a platform underneath the hierarchy to bring together people to address a complex challenge. So if you're clear about what the complex challenge is, you can use the platform to attract resources to help you generate solutions. Remember, there's no single solution. There's multiple solutions. Your inquiry probably won't end. Maybe it does, but it does, But so let me give you an example of our problem with Lockheed and how we did this. So Lockheed approached us and said, look, we've got this problem that we can't really solve. And that's the Navy has asked us, how do we deploy condition-based maintenance, which is predictive maintenance across the Navy's Aegis destroyer fleet? In other words, we need a technology roadmap to do this. We don't know how to do this. And the reason we don't know how to do this is we're not up on all of the different technologies involved. UX design, machine learning, sensors. We don't have any, we're not at the, although we understand some of it, we're not at the front edge of all that stuff. So we're going to have to get some other companies that want to work with us. So over a 6-month period, we convened a series of 4 workshops, half a day, where we created a platform, essentially, and said, here's the challenge we're trying to address. Here's how we're going to deal with it. Here are the rules of the platform. In other words, one of the rules was we're not going to start by signing non-disclosure agreements, because if we start down that path, we're never going to get done. So only share information or insights that you're comfortable with. It's totally up to you what you share. Well, we started out with 60 companies and it quickly whittled down to about 20. So, about 40 people or 40 companies said, excuse me, that's not what we're interested in. It's fine. So we worked with the 20, but we came up in a period of 6 months with a technology roadmap. Now, what that is essentially an ecosystem. You can call it an ecosystem designed to address a complex challenge. But we didn't disrupt the hierarchy. We didn't try to bring people into that hierarchy physically. We weren't on the Lockheed campus. Nobody had to go through security, none of that stuff. We did it at a community college. And so
Wow.
you can create these kind of environments where you're solving complex challenges with not a lot of investment, because the companies are participating see that there could be shared value here. They could learn something about Lockheed. They could form relationships with Lockheed. They might potentially sell to Lockheed. Lockheed might get comfortable with them as consultants, whatever it is, multiple. But it's totally, it's in a sense, a controlled environment. And you can set these up anywhere. We do these now in universities, and this is really where we started. And we came up with this approach through our work with Fraunhofer. IAO in Stuttgart, Germany. And the idea was, of course, with universities, they're organized hierarchically, and they're very, everything in a university flows vertically, all the resources, all the promotions, everything. But the problems that we're confronting don't present themselves that way. They don't present themselves as an engineering problem. They don't present themselves as as an anthropology problem. Of course they don't. What they present themselves with is, we're running out of water. We're running out of fresh water. We have food insecurity problems. We have kids in Flint who are, who are killing each other with guns. Okay, these are complex problems, and this gets to the question that David Novik put in the chat, which is, what is a wicked problem? Well, let me define this. Two Australian scholars, Alfred and Head, provided a really good framework to understand wicked problems. And so think of two dimensions, a vertical dimension and horizontal. The vertical dimension, you start out with simple problems that have a root cause. My pen's run out of ink. I got to get new ink. That's a simple problem. But as you go up that vertical axis, the problems become more complex. The philosopher of science, Karl Popper, called them, you're moving from clock problems to cloud problems. Cloud problems are indeterminate. They're multiple causes. They're entangled. They're multiple causes. They manifest themselves in many different ways. And what we see that emerges from this tangle of forces is something we don't like. Kids shooting each other, or food shortages, or water shortages. These are problems that we say, okay, well, that's not what we want. We want to move toward a more abundance. We want to move toward food security. We want to move towards safe, clean water. We want to move to an environment where our kids can walk to school safely. Okay, that's the future we want. Trying to do a root cause analysis, in other words, technical problem solving, won't work, because these things are entangled. By the nature, they are entangled. Now, this is an idea that came out of the planning, people dealing with planning situations where they're, land use planning. So the classic article on this is 40 years old, maybe 40, 50 years old. But the challenge is, well, how do we deal with this? Well, it turns out that along the horizontal dimension, I want you to think about, okay, with a simple problem, you need an expert. Okay, or you need some expertise. You need to, you need to understand, how do I fill my ink in my pen? Well, you probably tried that a few times and got ink all over yourself, and then you figure out, oh, well, this is a way to do that.
Yeah.
As you move out, you get collaborations. Collaborations themselves, as I define them, are recombinant innovation. You're taking assets you already have and you're recombining them, and you're creating new solutions. So wicked problems are the intersection of these two things. Problems that are indeterminate, have potentially multiple solutions, and you need a collaboration to solve them. And so strategic doing was designed to deal with that upper right-hand quadrant, which is, how do I deal with wicked problems when I can't tell anybody what to do? Okay. How do I do that?
It's really odd. I did some stuff this morning because we've been doing we've been trying to do some like a local impact agility project. And the one thing we decided and voted on in a collaborative group was, what could we do around about people eating more locally? So eating fresh food locally, less carbon footprint and everything else. I just wanted to kind of share my screen because I created this morning.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit. Sorry, move screens and zoom in. And each one of these things is a whole area where I could collaborate. So,
Sure.
Yeah, people are not buying local veg. Well, people are trying to save money because of the cost of living crisis on. People want to minimize their shopping time, which then gets you into, how could my grandmother, cook food all the time, which didn't, and then I started mapping out into, trends where the advertising money has got spent. And then we started going up here into what could the government support, and then what were the skills and economic challenges, and then what's the demand size. So here's my question, right? I stopped.
Yeah, and he could have gone on, right?
All this came from how can I do a little project to try and get people to eat more fresh veg? So what am I doing wrong?
Do you mean that there are infinite solutions?
No, it's all very sorry, I'll let Ed reflect. Yeah.
No, go ahead, Scott, please.
I just found it was very interconnected. So saving money also meant that I probably wanted to go to a supermarket. It probably meant I ate processed food because the supermarket presents it cheaper. And then I got this really interesting thing where I started looking at the people producing things. And in Scotland, a lot of our agriculture goes to high-end quality food, like Scottish beef, Scottish salmon, and it all goes for export. So even then we went into limited land supply and seasonality of food, and then how if I was a provider, I probably wouldn't be trying to provide cheap food for cheap people. Yeah, for poor people, I'd be trying to grow a cash crop to export. So it got very complex. Sorry, do you want to jump? So what am I doing wrong, Ed?
So what I'm going to suggest to you is you just define that one dimension of a wicked problem. In other words, there are many contributing factors to why this isn't getting, why we're not buying and eating fresh food. And the problem here is that if you apply traditional problem-solving methods, which is, again, breaking this down into different components, it does help you understand how did you get to the current system. What's the entanglement that led to this? But it doesn't present you with a path to generating a solution.
Yes.
And so here's the trick. What you need to be focused on is a conversation that focuses on the future. So imagine every community in Scotland had access to fresh Scottish grown food. What would that system look like? So you're designing a new system. This is the existing system, helps you understand who the players are and all of that. That's all helpful, but it will not lead you to a new system. The new system is going to be based on new collaborations, new systems that are going to emerge out of the conversations you're having. And so one of the things that we've learned is we have to break a habit, which we have, which is to think of complex problems as technical problems. We can break them all down and we can find what the problem is. Well, No, you can gain insight into the current situation. You can certainly gain insight into that. But the real opportunity is designing the new system and planting seeds for the new system. And that comes from conversations that begin with a framing, what we call a framing question. And it encourages people to imagine. So a framing question typically starts with imagine. Imagine every community in Scotland, or imagine Glasgow, or Edinburgh, or whatever, has a food system that makes fresh food available to everyone. What would that look like? So when you do that, I'll take the example of Flint, where we say, okay, we could have done the same thing you did, Scott, with teenage homicides. Why, what's happening here? And we could have gone out all the way to the family, to the breakdown of the economic base, to the availability of guns in the United States, all these kinds of things. Yeah, that's all true. But what do we really want? Well, we imagine, what would it look like for everyone, for every school child to be able to walk to and from school safe and what would that be? What would the churches be doing? What would the schools be doing? What would the police be doing? What would the fire department be doing? What would all these different people be doing? And so that enables us to start imagining a new system. And so much of our challenge is taking the assets that we have embedded in these old systems and reconfiguring them into something new. That's why I say collaboration is the process by which you do that. It's the process by which you create productive collaborations, is managing a conversational process. And there are 10 skills to do it. And if you follow these simple rules, the probability that you're going to generate more and better solutions goes way up. Because what you're doing is you're taking your existing assets and you're utilizing them in a different way. You're connecting them in a different way. And so the productivity of your existing assets goes way up. And I mean way up. I mean, productivity is not 5%, 10% improved. You're talking about 3x, 10x, 15x. Because you're leveraging those assets in new and different ways. And those assets obviously are all embedded in people, right? So you want access to money, you want access to space, you need access to technology. These are all people assets. This is the socio of the socio-technical system. So you bring people together, recombine these assets, and you will find a more productive system. And there's disciplines to do this. My colleague, Doug Smith, and I have been doing this for 30 years. We've got validated models. Now, as I said, they're not the only models. We're not claiming that, but they're models that work. They're models that work. So start there, improve on them, get them better, make them better. That's what, or, take what you've learned and design your own model. I don't care, but we've got to stop arguing about the causes. And we have to stop trying to stop the old systems from working. The old systems are embedded. They have resources, they have power, there's power structures. That's not how you get a better future. You don't go against the old system. You design, as Buckminster Fuller said, you design new systems that make the old system obsolete.
Yeah.
And you do that. That's how transformations happen. And
we have to be honest about how complicated is the transition. I believe totally on you, Ed, because I believe on that kind of things. But in the technical framework, in the technical environment, it's really we need a change of mindset, and we don't have to blame at any point. No blaming, it's not fault of anyone. If you are prisoner of the technical process, it's difficult. But of course, we have to believe in a new pattern. And you are saying a very interesting thing about the importance of the conversational approach in which you design the future. Because when you design the future, you believe on people. And there is agility coming here, Less process, less papers, and more people. But otherwise, of course, exactly. Otherwise, of course, technically, we need process. So it's a flow, difficult flow, but it's nice. I like it.
So what happens, what we've learned, Sergio, is this, that any transition to a new system starts small. Anyone, you don't start big, you start small and you grow it. It's an organic process. You're talking about networks that don't exist yet. So these are human networks that require trust to build. They require trust emerges out of a pattern of reliable behavior. So it takes time, We can accelerate the time though. And we can do this in a way where you bring cohorts of teams along at the same time. So you can do 20 cohorts, and you can transform and move toward new systems. And this is where we need to be focusing our energy. And it's this process of continuously doing. Now, if you look at most of the work around ESG or water supplies, or a colleague of mine just went and looked at 40 different water sites, that are worried about the future of our global water supply. A lot of people on those sites are telling us about the problem. They're telling us what to do, but they're not doing anything. Well, one of the sure ways of not changing, people behave their way into new ways of thinking. You can't sit there and tell people to think differently. They can only think, they only have, you can only change your own mind. You can't change anybody else's mind. They change their own mind. But you can give them learning experiences that help them see differently. And that's really what strategic doing and performance-driven change and even design thinking and Lego serious play and all of that is all creating experiences for people to start thinking more horizontally, if you will, than less vertically. Vertical thinking is not going to go away. It's important, but we have to strengthen our insights that when we get into complex challenges, the old systems aren't going to work. The old systems are producing our current situation. They're not working. So there's no fix to the old system that's going to work. There's no fix. Okay, now the challenge is more interesting in many ways and more exciting. And that is, let's design what are the characteristics of the outcomes that we want to see. What do we want to see?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we want to see every kid walking home from school. We want to see after school experiences. We want to see whatever it is. It's up to you. All right, now we got to design, and now we have to do. It's a design do, because we don't know what's going to work. Before the fact, we have no idea. So we have to engage the system. We have to experiment. We have to get our boots muddy. We got to, do this. Well, this is where, again, you kind of run into the old scholarly mindset of way up on the high hard ground, the scholars are going to come up with solutions and they're going to throw them out over the fence, and the rest of us are going to figure, oh, that's how you do this. Well, that works well in the natural sciences, perhaps, but it doesn't work well in the complex, swampy lowlands of real world problems. The only way to engage real world problems is to engage them, is to experiment. Now, the good news is that there's disciplines to do this. There are simple rules, heuristics to follow. And you have the opportunity to learn from other practitioners. That's the key, because your learning comes from other people. Your insights come from other people who are engaging, and you start to think, oh, how could I take that idea and move it into what I'm doing? And so learning communities and innovating communities, which are different, learning communities and innovating communities are going to be critical to our future. And that's one of the reasons why we're building a global practitioner community with strategic doing and strategic doing networks, is because, the way you learn this stuff is from other practitioners and yourself, and, engaging yourself and getting guidance from other people. There's no book here, even though I've written a book, there's no, hey, this is not a recipe, technical problems have a recipe. Yeah, Audrey, please.
I have a question. Yes. what's the difference between a learning community, two questions, and an innovative community?
Okay.
Okay, and then and after the follow-up question is around emotion. All of this has to be
That's
extremely
great. That's a
yes. So anyway, so yes, what all these different emotions that go into all of this, what do you do and how do you handle that? So those are my two questions.
So let me distinguish between not just two communities, but three communities.
Okay.
Three types of communities. One is an advocacy community. So if you're a sports fan, you know, you're part of an advocacy community. You know, if I Manchester United, hey, I'm a sports fan. Now you don't necessarily know the other people, but you wear the colors, you're part of the advocate, you're alumni of a college or whatever. That's an advocacy community. You don't need to know other people in the advocacy community. You're just part of you're wearing the school colors and you belong. A learning community, you do know each other, but you're helping each other learn. I've got a problem. You've got a problem or a challenge. I ask help from you, Audrey. You give me guidance. I give you guidance but you're still working on your challenge and I'm working on my challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a learning community. An innovating community is where collaboration comes in, where we're creating solutions together by combining assets we already have access to create something entirely new. And there you have to have high levels of trust. So you have advocacy community, learning communities, and innovating communities. And strategic doing is designed to move you to innovating communities as fast as we can make it happen, and within a matter of hours through a workshop. So if you are dealing with a complex challenge, you want to get to an innovating community as fast as you can. You have to build trust with people that you've never worked with before. And you have to have some measure of leadership. And so what strategic doing does is it gives you an operating system for how to do that. It gives you, here's how the conversations need. You should spend 30% of your time here, 40% of your time here. And, it's rough. These are all heuristics. These are all rough rules of thumb. But that's how we solve these complex problems, is we work off of our experience and rules of thumb. Now, you also asked about emotion. And this is really, really important. Because in open networks, they don't engage on the basis of analysis. Analysis can be helpful, no question about it. But for people to engage and to work together, they need essentially two things. They need to visualize in their mind, where are we going? What's the future we're heading toward? And why is that meaningful to me? Why do I care about that? So you have to trigger a visualization that says, hey, if we do work together, we're actually going to go here and your life is going to be better. And so that's a visualization that enables the emotion, a positive emotion, to form. Now, psychologists call this prospection. It's the notion that, and you do this all the time. When you buy a new house, right? You walk through the house and you think, oh, maybe I can, the kitchen's pretty good. I like it. Or you go to a new, decide when you're going to go to college, right? Or, when you pick a partner, right? I wonder how spending all day, every day with this person is actually going to work. And so you are projecting a future. And if it generates positive emotion, then you start saying, well, I don't want to walk toward that. I want to go toward that. The second thing you need to do is, what's a practical next step? Because if you just have a prospection about the future and you don't know what to do, you're just going to sit there. You're not going to move. But if you have a practical next step, something doable. So this is one of the reasons why in strategic doing, we say focus on doing the doable. Focus on doing things, because you'll do two things. One is you'll generate knowledge about what works. You'll test your assumptions. Maybe this will work. I don't know. Yeah, okay, it's working. Second is, by doing things together, you're building trust. You're building a reliable pattern of trust, right? If I say, Audrey, I'm going to do this, and Audrey, you say, I'm going to do this, and we end up doing that, we start saying, oh, Audrey's pretty trustworthy. Yeah, okay. But if I say, I'm going to meet you next Tuesday at 11 o'clock, and I'm not there, and if I don't have a pretty good excuse as to why I didn't show up, then you're going to say, well, I wonder if this person's trustworthy. And if I didn't show up the next Tuesday at 11 o'clock, then the next Tuesday. So you have what we call Kenyette's rule, all right?
Oh, spell me that, Ed.
Kenyetta is in Flint, Michigan. Kenyette's rule is Kenyetta. Kenyetta's rule. And Kenyetta's rule is when you're facing a complex challenge, you've got to do something. So you've got to do something at the end of the meeting. Everybody's got to do something. All right. So Kenyetta's rule is if you're facing a complex challenge, you can go to one meeting where people aren't doing anything, but you can't go to two. If you go to two, if you gotta, if you go to the second meeting and you're still not doing anything, then stop going. You're not, if you're just reporting on, oh, here's what we're doing, and you're not doing anything together, then you're not
deliver something, some evolution of the idea,
or just some commitment. Then you're building. If you do something together, everybody doing something together, then you're starting to build trust. You're moving from this learning community, oh, we've got a really big problem, let's learn about it, to actually generating an innovating community, actually generating solutions around it, right? And so doing the doable and focusing on everyone doing things. And if you're just dealing with a complex problem and nobody's doing anything, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of
juggling. It's like juggling with balls. You are not juggling with balls, but no.
Yeah, and the other thing to watch out for is, okay, let's assume that Mark, David, Sergio, Scott, Ed, and Audrey are here together, and we're working on a complex problem, and then all of a sudden we say, well, all right, now Audrey's the only woman here, so she must be the one that's going to do something. So we're going to think, and Audrey's going to do. All right, so that's another dynamic that takes hold here, which is, and you see this in universities all the time, where the top professors, the named professors, the tenured full professors, they think that they're, all you need my thinking. I'm the thinker, right? And somebody else is going to do the doing. And we said, no, everybody's going to do the doing. Everybody does the thinking. Everybody does the doing. That's the key to building an innovating community. And if you don't have time to do, that's fine. That's fine. Come back another time. We'll figure out another solution, because again, remember, with complex challenges, there are dozens and dozens of solutions. There's not just one. So we can't use that. Come back, let's do another solution. We can't use that person's assets. We'll come up with another solution. Might not be as powerful, perhaps, maybe, but we're going to learn as a group. We're going to engage, and we're going to build trust. And this residual trust that builds can carry on for years. You have people 20 years ago that you worked on a project with, and you feel comfortable with them, and you can call them up. I do this all the time. I call up somebody I haven't talked to in 15 years, and I say, hey, I got this problem. Can you want to work on it with me? And they say, oh yeah, sure. So you have residual networks that form out of this process, which is increasingly important. So this is our website. There are different courses you can take. I encourage you to, well, let me put in the chat. David Novick is here, and he's part of this group, but let me put in the chat an open community on Connex. Connex is our partner in Belgium.
And please write down please the spelling of the word Kenyetta, because my spelling is no good. Write down in the chat if you don't mind, please.
Oh yeah, right.
Thank you.
We call it Kenyetta's rule. There you go. And this is the open community on Connex. Connex is our Belgian platform, Belgian partner. And every Friday we have a strategic doing talk. And so we are talking to practitioners. If you join the open community, you can go into the videos. I'll share my screen here if I can. Scott,
you can. I'll stop sharing.
all right. Let me share my screen. David is here. David, how are you? You're skilled with all this stuff, so maybe you want to jump in and share what we do on these.
Sure. Well, I'm sleepy because this meeting started at 7 a.m. here in El Paso, so that's why I'm now dressed. Yeah. So actually, these the open community is terrific because people are sharing problems they're encountering, as well as insights they're having, and that's actually quite interesting. And it also, in terms of, it's funny, in Ed's terms, this would be a learning community because we're not actually doing anything together. But as a result of meeting people through this community, I'm starting to partner with people whom I never would have known about to actually start doing stuff. So in fact, I have a Zoom call this afternoon with somebody in the community in a different city.
Right. And I'm hoping from the last conversation we had that your AR and VR experience will help us with gaming. Yes, that's a whole nother side topic. But
and I met yesterday with the CEO of a local startup that's involved in VR AR, and it's interesting because they have this great product, nobody wants it, and so they're trying to figure out sort of what to do.
That's Blue Ocean strategy.
Yeah, I mean,
well,
yeah.
As you go into this open community, these are our Friday talks, and so this is a talk. These two talks are with Ubaldo Cordova, who is we've been talking about transforming our universities, who applied these principles, applied these skills, disciplines to the administration of the University of Puerto Rico. This is Julio Jose Prada, was the Minister of Production and Trade in Ecuador, and he applied strategic doing across 20 different clusters in Ecuador. So because it's a discipline that's now teachable, we know what the skills are, and we know how to teach the skills or provide learning experiences so people can experience those skills and figure out where they are, what they're good. You can now scale this. And through the cohort model, you can scale it actually fairly fast, fairly quickly. In space of 8 months, you can get to hundreds of people in working on a complex problem. It's not the same as going through a typical training course, because our training increasingly is what we call challenge centric. In other words, you bring your challenge to the training. You bring your challenge to the training, and then we work these skills in the context of the challenge you're trying to address. So this is
you can cohabit different challenges of different people in the same table, isn't it? In the same,
yeah, right. Yeah, you can
to support each other, complement each other, and
because we broke it down. This is what the investment in 15 years was, because we broke it down into skills, and because we see the process playing out in small with simple rules. Now you can, once you get, just like a jazz musician, once they learn fundamental skills of playing the clarinet, for example, they can then improvise. You don't want to improvise at the beginning because you're still learning the basics. You need to experience designing and guiding conversations. You need to experience where you individually are going to be good and where you're not so good, where you have to rely on someone else who's pretty good at that skill or that set of skills. Nobody is good at all 10 skills. Nobody is equally good at all 10 skills. Some of the skills are, like, for me, are like, oh, I got this. But a lot of them are very, like writing with my wrong hand. I have to be very intentional. This is why you need cognitively diverse teams to work on complex challenges, because there are different skills that people bring to the different perspectives, but also different skills that people bring. And we work with a company based in The Hague, Human Insight, that help us really understand how do we slot people, how do we develop a team quickly so that they have these complementary skills. Human Insight has worked on this. It's based on the, excuse me, it's based on the lifetime work of Peter Robertson, who's a psychiatrist, who spent his life in consulting. Very complementary to the work we do. And so there are these skill sets that you have that you can build. And anyway, it's really kind
How
of
is
cool.
this community accessible? Is you have to join, you have to pay, you have to...
No paying. It's an open community. You don't pay. You just, if you want to, join our Friday talks and, listen to things, it's an open community. That's why I say it's an open community.
If you
But,
don't mind,
What?
if you don't mind, if I have something like 1 minute related with this thing, okay? I'm gonna join with the community, no doubt. I would like probably in a few days try to talking with you. I'm not sure who I talking about you, okay? Could be Scott, Ed. I don't mind if it's David or another, okay? And I want to say you, I think it's an important moment to me. Just 1 minute. I try to be concise. I am in a critical moment because I decided at the beginning of the year to be an entrepreneur, right? Are you there?
Yes, I am. I'm right here.
Okay. I decide to be entrepreneur. So I find in my approach in which I can be like, I am not introvert, but because of my English broken, I need my moments to me.
Sure.
Because if I just iterating by conversation, blah, 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 it's not correct pace. So I think a strategic goal I have to get now is try to connecting with the university to starting something like, I'm not sure if PhD or something like that. I am engineer, like BSc or MSc, I don't know. So I need to planning, doing like a micro plan, because if I join probably with the university, it's not my passion, but I like, because I like knowledge and research, and I want to share knowledge. So I think so is I have to find a way. And as a foreigner, not because victimized, as a foreigner, as a broken English, don't understanding properly the system, something like totally difficult. And I'm noticing now talking with you, with both you more or less, that you are totally sensible, and maybe you can help me in 2 steps, critical steps to structure the plan. Because if not, every time I have to call in, talking by telephone, it's like totally overwhelmed,
What's your country of origin, Sergio? Where did you grow up?
I'm Spanish.
Yeah. So you came
from Spain.
Yeah. So, well, let me reassure you that I don't speak Spanish, but we have we introduced strategic doing to Ecuador. We have Spanish speakers in Ecuador. We have the University of Puerto Rico in the U.S. Provost speaks Spanish, teach it in Spanish. So, and the Connects platform, we haven't got there yet, but their Connects platform is multilingual, so we can create Spanish.
But exactly, but it is curious in my personal approach. I want to share all my approach with another approaches, but my personal approach, I have to be careful. I don't have to looking for shortcuts in Spanish. Just a little bit, yes. For that reason, I am always saying like, I would like to develop teams in which we speak in 3 languages, Spanish, English, and please, another language that I don't speak, because I want some people who speak her or his native tongue, bring her own authenticity, I don't know, roots, So it's not about competition in between languages. It's sharing knowledge in the correct space, I don't know. And that is the point that we can dreaming, and we have to be like structured, hierarchic, but we have to dreaming, dancing, playing, and both sides are necessary. I like how you presenting the things said, to be honest. I am resonate to me a lot, because I feel frustration to expressing in English.
So one thought, Sergio, go visual. Yeah. So don't try and use words, go visual, because visual understanding is a shortcut. Yeah.
Imagine one silly thing. This is a game I did 2 years ago about a project about my dream. My dream should be something like a transition career. Okay? So in this game, doesn't matter, I expressing all the things. So I just need a person in front of me or doing a conversational approach like Ed mentioned before to generate together a project that I am not obsessed with the project. No, not at all. It's one of my I'm not sure aspirations, but I would like to contribute to others. I'm happy to contribute in others. It's not obsessed with my project. But
Yeah,
I agree with you, visual is totally.
So David Novak's got his hand up and has had for a little while. And I'm also conscious of time because we have came to the end of the hour. But David, yeah.
So Sergio, you know about Lean Launchpad?
Yes,
No.
Lean, I know a little bit, yeah.
All right. Well, you need to buy a book called The Startup Owner's Manual, which is how to do Lean Launchpad. And it complements, it very much complements strategic doing. But your odds of succeeding as an entrepreneur without doing what's in that book are close to zero.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So and I was just looking at it the other day, and they actually there's actually an article about the intersection of Lean Launchpad tech with wicked problems. So it's very much in the same. It's all about doing, actually. You're going to have a lot to do that you may not even enjoy very much, but I hope you will. But anyway, I think in addition to strategic doing, you really need to get that.
It's a good suggestion. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's by Steve Blank, and the book is called Startup Owner's Manual.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, right. So anyone want to say anything else before we wrap up? And thank you very much for coming, Ed. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, this is great.
Thank you very much.
You made a lot of sense. I mean that in the sense making sense, not just.
That's a worthy. Mark, hi. How are you?
Hi, yeah, I just want to say thank you very much as well. Very interesting.
Hello,
And
Mark.
yeah, and thanks for the link. I signed up, so look forward to learning more.
Yeah, Fridays, the talks are on Fridays, 9 o'clock in the Eastern US and 3 o'clock Central European time. And then there's recordings. If you know, all those recordings are in the video. So if you miss it, you can watch a recording. So, and some really cool.
Where are you located? Are you located in England?
Yeah, so I'm about an hour north of Atlanta in the US. I'm
in
right
Atlanta.
Near Atlanta. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway, David, thank you for putting on a shirt.
You should be grateful for that, Ed.
And Scott, thank you for the opportunity. That's the other thing. Thank you very much.
This is and we're going to get you back, I think, because what you're trying to do, what this group's trying to do with our education group, and that it's very much the same space. I'd like to get next time you come back, I wouldn't mind getting some reflections on this great period of change we're on and the AI and everything. So I think having a good conversation about that would be. I'd love to know your views on that. Yeah.
Okay. Great. Wonderful. I look forward to it.
It's a date.
Looking forward.
Excellent.
Thank you very much.
Bye, guys.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you. Bye.